Bart Simpson faked a kid dying in a well, live on television. He shut down an entire school by manipulating the teachers into a strike, just so he wouldn't have to go to class. He nearly started an international incident with Australia over a phone bill. Everybody remembers the skateboard and the catchphrase. Nobody remembers this. These are every time Bart Simpson went too far. And the last one still shouldn't have aired. Number 6. Bart the Lover. This is the first episode that ever put Mrs. Krabappel front and center, and the show uses it to have a 10-year-old destroy her. It opens with her alone in the classroom. She's showing the kids a film strip about the importance of zinc, and the bell rings, and every single student is gone before she finishes her sentence. That night, she writes a personal ad for the newspaper. Warm, loving woman in her 30s. The ad ends with 2 words: object, save me. Meanwhile, the school gets a visit from the Twirl King yo-yo champions, and every kid in Springfield becomes obsessed. Krabappel bans yo-yos from her classroom outright. Bart pulls one out anyway to show Milhouse a trick called Around the World.
I build up a little steam and... I didn't do it.
She confiscates the yo-yo and gives him a month of detention. Alone in detention, Bart goes digging through her desk to steal his yo-yo back. He finds the personal ad instead. He looks up at the wall, sees the row of presidential portraits, and lands on Woodrow Wilson. That's the name, Woodrow. And when Woodrow's letters get read out loud, the show gives him this rich, smooth, romantic voice.
Oh yes, I really hate yo-yos.
Oh, Woodrow.
Krabappel writes back immediately. She sends a photo of herself in a red dress. Bart's now running a full operation. He watches old romance movies and copies the lines. He asks Marge about the love letters Homer used to write her and gets a postcard Homer once sent from a brewery. She asks for a picture of Woodrow. Bart finds a book of hockey players in the classroom and mails her a photo of Gordie Howe. And here's the part that makes this genuinely dark. Krabappel starts opening up to Bart in detention, warmer, actually talking to him about the kind of man she's looking for. Bart takes everything she tells him and puts it straight into the next letter. Eventually, she asks to meet Woodrow in person. Dinner at the Gilded Truffle. Bart sets the date. Then he doesn't send anyone. He goes down to the restaurant to watch her sit there alone. Then he leaves, goes to the movies, watches an entire film. And when he comes back out, she's still sitting at that table, crying. That's the moment it stops being funny to him.
I can't help but feel partly responsible.
He can't fix it alone, so he brings it home. The whole family sits around the table writing Woodrow's goodbye letter together, arguing over every line. Bart delivers it himself. She reads it and she cries, but she takes the closure from a man who never existed. Then she asks Bart if he wants to spend his last day of detention outside instead. He got a month of detention for killing some fish. She got catfished into a restaurant by a 10-year-old using a dead president's name and a hockey player's face. Number 5. The PTA disbands. Bart doesn't get one teacher fired here. He takes down the entire school. It starts with a field trip. The bus has holes in the floor, the exhaust is leaking into the cabin, and the brakes are completely gone. The kids have to throw their jackets out the windows to slow it down. Bart and Milhouse spend the ride being grateful they didn't take the other bus, which explodes because a leaf lands on it. They get to Fort Springfield, and Skinner can't afford the admission. He announces that no school could afford that price, and then a better-funded school walks straight past him through the gates. So the kids try to watch from outside the wall. They get caught learning for free and chased off. On the way back, Krabappel tells Skinner that by refusing to fix anything, he's costing these kids their futures. And Skinner, furious, snaps back that the kids don't have futures. Everybody hears it. Now here's Bart. He's watching this whole thing fall apart, and he sees an opportunity not to help anyone, to get out of school. So he starts working both sides. He goes to Skinner and tells him Krabappel thinks he's a pushover. Then he goes to Krabappel and tells her the exact same thing about Skinner. And Skinner actually says out loud that he was wrong about Bart, that he'd always assumed the boy was manipulative. And here he is being so helpful. He's being lied to his face by a 10-year-old in real time. It works. Edna calls a full teachers union strike against Springfield Elementary. The school closes, and Bart is the happiest kid alive. He spends his days messing with construction workers, messing with people at the bank, flying a kite at night for reasons the show never explains. Everyone else falls apart. Lisa has a complete breakdown without structure. She's begging her family to grade her, and eventually builds a perpetual motion machine just to have something to do. Milhouse's parents hire a private tutor, and he gets genuinely smarter. Jimbo ends up on the couch, emotionally invested in his mother's soap operas. And every time the two sides get close to a deal, Bart quietly sabotages it. Because the second they settle, he goes back to school. Eventually, the PTA gives up and staffs the school with people from the neighborhood. Jasper takes over Lisa's class and sends everyone home when his beard gets stuck in the pencil sharpener. And Marge becomes Bart's substitute teacher, in front of everyone, calling him Barty. That's what finally breaks him. So Bart has to fix the thing he built. He and Milhouse trick Skinner and Krabappel into into walking into Skinner's office, and then they lock the door behind them. Bart tells them through the door that they're not coming out until they've settled it. The two of them sit in there for hours, trapped like prisoners in their own school, and that's what gives them the idea. They come out and rent the school's cloakrooms to Springfield Prison, which is why the episode ends with actual prison cells installed in the back of every classroom, and Snake sitting in the one directly behind Bart's desk. Bart shut down a school district because he was bored, and the town's solution was to put convicts in the classroom. Number 4. Bart sells his soul. Before Bart sells anything, he hijacks a church. The family are serving as ushers, which means Bart is handing out the hymn sheets. So he swaps the opening hymn for a 17-minute psychedelic rock song, credited to a made-up writer, and the entire congregation just starts singing it. Nobody notices. Not the congregation, not Lovejoy. They play the whole thing, 17 minutes. The organist collapses onto the keys at the end. Lovejoy hauls all the kids into his office to find the culprit, and Milhouse folds instantly because a crow looks at him funny and he decides his soul is on the line. So both boys get punished, cleaning the organ pipes. And down there, Bart tells Milhouse the truth as he sees it.
There's no such thing as a soul. It's just something they made up to scare kids, like the Boogeyman or Michael Jackson.
Milhouse calls the bluff. If it isn't real, sell it. Bart writes his own soul out on a scrap of paper and hands it over for $5. Then things start happening. Automatic doors stop opening for him. He stands at the Quickie Mart entrance while they open perfectly for Rod and Todd Flanders. He breathes on the freezer glass and no fog appears. The other kids do it fine. Santa's little helper won't go near him. He can't laugh at Itchy and Scratchy anymore. He watches it and feels nothing at all. Lisa tells him he's going to regret this. He doesn't listen. Then he has the nightmare. Every kid in Springfield is out playing with their soul as a second person. They all climb into little boats, one kid, one soul, and row off to an amusement park across the water. Milhouse has two souls rowing for him. Bart gets in his boat alone, and he doesn't move. He wakes up screaming, so he goes to buy it back. And Milhouse, who has been on the receiving end of Bart's entire career up to this point, looks him dead in the eye and asks for $50. Bart doesn't have it, and by the time he can get it, Milhouse has already traded the paper away. It's been sold on, and sold on again. Bart ends the episode desperate enough to try to buy a soul off Ralph Wiggum, and then on his knees at home, actually praying, actually crying, begging for it back. He hijacked an entire church service and sold his soul for $5 on the same day. He spent the rest of the episode finding out that the $5 wasn't the expensive part. Number 3. The Telltale Head. This episode opens at the end. Night. Homer and Bart running through downtown Springfield, and Bart is carrying a severed head under his arm. A mob with torches corners them in the town square, right next to a decapitated statue. Bart climbs up on it and tells them how this happened. It started on a Sunday. Marge banned him from seeing a violent movie called Space Mutants 4. Then he runs into Jimbo, Kearney, and Dolph, the older kids, the ones he's desperate to be liked by, and they invite him along. They sneak him into the movie. They get thrown out. They shoplift from the Quickie Mart. They go to the town square and throw rocks at the statue of Jebediah Springfield, the town founder. Then they lie in the grass looking at clouds. Bart says one of them looks like the Jebediah statue with no head, and the older kids love it. They say somebody should actually do it. It'd be hilarious watching the whole town lose its mind. Bart says that's going too far, and they laugh at him for it. So Bart goes to his father and asks, in the most direct way he ever asks anything.
Well, I was wondering, how important is it to be popular?
And Homer tells him popularity is the most important thing in the world, as long as he isn't talking about killing anyone. That night, Bart takes a saw into the town square. Next morning, he shows up at the bullies' hangout with the head in his backpack. And before he can say anything, they're talking about the vandal, how they'd break every bone in his body if they found him. Bart quietly zips the bag shut. He reminds them what they said about the clouds. And Kearney tells him that was just cloud talk. So Bart walks home through a town in mourning. People standing around the headless statue in silence. Grandpa furious at the retirement home. Moe's bar dead quiet. And Bart starts hearing the head speak to him. He finally brings it out in front of the family and explains that somehow he got the idea being popular was the most important thing in the world. Marge asks where he could possibly have gotten that idea. Homer very quietly suggests they go easy on the boy. Homer walks him back into town to return it, which is exactly where the episode started. Bart cut the head off a town monument because 3 older kids said a cloud looked funny and none of them even wanted him to do it. Number 2. Radio Bart. It's Bart's 10th birthday, and Homer buys him a superstar celebrity microphone off a TV commercial, a mic that broadcasts your voice into any AM radio nearby. Bart is bored by it. He's bored by all of it, except a label maker, which he immediately uses to stamp property of Bart Simpson on everything he owns. Then he works out what the microphone can do. He starts small. He convinces Rod and Todd Flanders that God is speaking to them through the radio.
Rod, Todd, this is God.
How did you get on the radio?
What do you mean, how did I get on the radio? I created the universe, stupid kids.
Then he takes a radio to an abandoned well, drops it in, and starts crying for help. Willie hears it. The town comes running, and Bart gives them a name. Timmy O'Toole, an orphan, leg pinned under a rock at the bottom. The well is too narrow for any adult to fit down, so Springfield can't rescue him. They can only stand around it and love him. And it becomes a phenomenon. Channel 6 is running constant updates. A carnival sets up at the well, actual rides. There's a man selling bags of what he claims are Timmy O'Toole's baby teeth. Comic book guy is selling t-shirts. An Itchy and Scratchy episode gets dedicated to him. And Krusty pulls together Sting and half the celebrities in Springfield to record a charity single called "We're Sending Our Love Down the Well." Then Santa's little helper gets hold of the microphone and growls into it. The town hears growling coming out of the well, and the news reports that Timmy has turned feral. Dr. Marvin Monroe goes on air with an artist's impression of a wolf boy. Lisa catches Bart wrestling the mic off the dog and works out the whole thing in about 4 seconds. She tells him this ends with the town wanting him dead. Bart isn't worried. How would anyone find out? And Lisa asks him whether he happened to put a label on that radio. So that night, Bart lowers himself down the well on a rope to get it back. Eddie and Lou find the rope and untie it. Bart falls to the bottom of the well. The town finds him down there, and he has to tell them the truth. Timmy O'Toole never existed. And Springfield, who wrote a song for this kid, who held a carnival for this kid, decides Bart can stay in the hole. Days pass. Quimby publicly announces that Bart should stay down there. Nobody comes. And down at the bottom, Bart starts listing off everything he's never gonna get to do, and he breaks. Homer hears it, picks up a shovel, and starts digging on his own. Willie joins him. Then the rest of the town joins Willie. Sting is the one who breaks through the wall and pulls him out. Bart invented a dying orphan, sat back and watched an entire town grieve for him, and got a celebrity charity single recorded about a person who did not exist. And number 1, Bart versus Australia. This one starts with a toilet. Bart and Lisa are racing shampoo and toothpaste around the bowl, and Lisa keeps winning. She explains it's because of which way the water drains in the northern hemisphere. Bart refuses to accept this, so he starts calling the southern hemisphere to check. He calls Antarctica. He calls a dictatorship. He calls Argentina. He calls a man on a Pacific island in the middle of a volcanic eruption. Nobody gives him a straight answer. Lisa warns him what international calls cost, so Bart makes it collect. A boy in rural Australia named Tobias picks up, and Bart introduces himself as Dr. Bart Simpson of the International Draining Commission. Tobias tells him the water drains clockwise, which is the answer Bart didn't want, so Bart tells him to go check the neighbors' toilets too. Tobias lives in the middle of nowhere. Going to the neighbors takes hours, and Bart forgets he's on the phone. He goes off to play with Milhouse. The call runs for 6 hours. 3 weeks later, Tobias's father Bruno opens a phone bill for $900. Bruno calls the Simpson house to sort it out, and Bart taunts him, so Bruno complains to his neighbor Gus, who happens to be a member of the Australian Parliament. Gus takes it to the Prime Minister. Letters start arriving in Springfield from the Prime Minister of Australia and the Solicitor General. Bart ignores every single one, so the government of Australia indicts a 10-year-old American boy for fraud. Lisa finds the letters. A State Department official named Evan Conover turns up at the house and explains that Bart has personally damaged relations between 2 countries. Washington's opening offer is to put Bart in prison to smooth things over. Marge refuses. They settle on a public apology, delivered in Australia, so the family flies out. They're put up in the American embassy, which is fitted out to be as American as possible, right down to a toilet engineered to drain the correct way. Bart apologizes in front of Parliament, and then Parliament reveals the actual sentence, a booting, which is a man kicking him in the backside with an enormous boot. Homer and Bart run. The whole family barricades into the US Embassy while a crowd builds outside. It becomes a genuine diplomatic standoff between 2 governments over one child's backside. Eventually, they negotiate it down. 1 kick from the Prime Minister through the embassy gate with an ordinary shoe. Bart agrees. He walks to the gate. He turns around, and as the Prime Minister swings, Bart jumps clear, drops his pants, and moons the entire country, with "Don't Tread on Me" written across him, while humming the American national anthem. The crowd breaks through the gate. The Simpsons are evacuated by helicopter with Australians hurling beer at them. That's every time Bart Simpson went too far. Springfield gave up on him, but you don't have to, so subscribe.